It's springtime, leaders. Time to make our lead garden again. Look at here. This is the farm where I grew up in Canada. This is in Ontario. This was my grandpa's farm. My grandpa's house was here, and my uncle's house, where my uncle and aunt and all my cousins lived here. I lived up the road and around the corner. But all of our family worked together. This is my dad's truck here, and this is the barn, the big barn, and there's a silo, and this is the drive shed or the little barn, and this is the new barn. My dad and my uncle and my aunts and my grandpa, they all helped to build this barn together. This is our farm. Um, and we had all kinds of rows. See the long lines here? Long lines of crops and plants to grow here. These here. And this was corn here. I think these are soybeans. And these are soybeans. More vegetables. We had vegetables and fruit. We had so much fruit and vegetables. Very, very many, many, many strawberries. We had tractors and all kinds of machines, and many, many people worked on our farm. So this is our family farm. And that's me when I was a little boy on the farm. The corn was growing beside the house, and there's my mom. And I found a great big cucumber, and I was happy to find that. I was excited. One time when I was a little boy, I got lost in the cornfield, and my mom was so upset. She didn't know where I was. And these are just a couple of our tractors. When my kids were little, now they're all grown up practically. She's 20 now, 20, yeah, 20 something now, and she's over 20. But anyway, um, we took them out for a visit to Ontario to see the farm where my family and I used to live. And I worked out on the farm out there, helped a neighbor. This is my tractor. And these are bags of fertilizer. And I would carry the bags of fertilizer on top of the tractor. And you put the fertilizer inside of the hopper here. This is a fertilizer bin, right? It's called a side dresser. You put the fertilizer in the side dresser, and the fertilizer goes down through tubes where the teeth are, and it goes into the ground and helps the plants grow. This is the tractor I used to drive a lot. And here's one of our other tractors. And this was our field where we grew things. Well, today is still near Earth Day, students, and I have an Earth Day story for you, but it doesn't have to be just Earth Day, because this year, every time this year in lead class, we always make a garden. We always go at the school. There is a spot where we can have a garden, and we bring all kinds of nice plants and flowers to the garden. We bring shovels and rakes and spades and so many tools to the garden too. And we all work together to weed the garden, to pull the weeds, to dig the soil, to plant the seeds, to plant the plants. So many jobs all of us do together, and it's a happy day or a few days for us in lead. But this year we can't do it because of Corona, so I made a story for you. Look at my nice shirt and my pants. My daughter helped me color this, so she was making fun of me. Okay, it was spring. Mr. Steele was outside walking his dog, Kaylee. Hoof, hoof. The ground was muddy. No plants would grow in the dirt and rocks. Only a few weeds sprouted there. Sprouted means to grow. The trees had many dead branches, many sticks off the tree that wouldn't grow. There was litter and garbage everywhere. That happens in the spring. One of the jobs I had in the spring before I became a teacher was I worked for the city picking up the garbage. There's so much garbage in the spring. Mr. Steele wished it could be a garden, but he knew that he could not make the garden himself. It was too much work. Soon Mr. Steele saw Omar out walking. Omar asked Mr. Steele why he looked sad. Mr. Steele told Omar about his wish. Omar said, "Don't worry, Mr. Steele. Our lead class will help make this garden." King Sahil was sitting on his throne. This is a throne. And Sahil's the king. See his nice crown? He was sitting on his throne nearby, so he was close to where Omar and Mr. Steele were talking. He said, "Yes, I am the king, so I will not help, but I will watch all of you working. It makes me happy to see my people working." Thanks, king. Mr. Steele was happy to learn about how the lead students would be cooperating, working together to make a garden. Doesn't look like much of a garden right now, just a few weeds, eh? Omar talked to all the lead students about the garden. So Omar went around and he got everybody. First, Already brought his elephant. The elephant was strong. It picked up huge dead branches in its trunk. It moved giant rocks out of the way. So this is the elephant's trunk, this long nose. And he picks up the branches. These are branches off of a tree and moves them and kicks away the big rocks. Second, Egu's wheelchair was like a bulldozer. See, there's his wheelchair. Look at the motor. And then he's got this big blade at the front, just like a bulldozer that pushes the rocks and the garbage. Egu moved all the garbage. He pushed the litter away so that the land would be ready for planting. The two friends worked together very hard so the other students could come next. Mohammed came to help. He brought a shovel to dig in the soil. This is Mohammed's shovel. Abdullah saw Mohammed digging and he wanted to dig too. He also brought a shovel. He pushed the shovel into the earth with his boot. So into the earth, there's his boot, pushes it in, it goes into the soil. Abdul Rahman decided to use a pitchfork. This is like a big fork. You use it for digging. He could turn the soil over with the fork. He could take the soil and flip it and turn it so that the top soil is on the bottom and the bottom soil is on the top. Flip, flip. Together, the boys used their muscles to break open the earth. Their hard work made the soil ready for planting. So there's not really much grown here yet, but without the boys' work, the rest of the lead students wouldn't be able to plant anything. First, the students wanted to plant some vegetables in the garden. James was good at planting all kinds of vegetables. There's James, he's got a vegetable plant in each hand. There's the top of the plant, and there's the bottom. The bottom part of a plant is called the root. The root goes in the ground. Manit also helped planting. She made sure all the roots of the plants were in the ground, and she planted the garden in straight rows. You have to make sure that the roots are in the ground, otherwise the plant will dry out. It will die. So Manit was very careful. It was a sunny day. The wind began to blow. But James and Manit stayed all day. They planted all the vegetables. They put markers in the rows to tell what vegetables each plant would grow. Markers, not that you draw with. This is a marker. See, it's a stick with a word on it. It says these are pepper plants. Over here, these are potato plants. It's a marker. This is corn. It puts a marker down. Here's all the vegetable plants that James and Manit will plant, but they put markers in the soil to tell what vegetables each plant would grow. Because when a plant is small and doesn't have fruit on it, many people don't know what the plant is. Next, the lead students wanted to care for the trees and the soil so they would be healthy. People have to be healthy, right? It's Corona, we must stay healthy. But animals and plants and trees and the soil must be healthy. Soil can be very sick, right? So the lead students had to make sure. Here's a tree. A tree has many parts. Leaves, this is the green. Branches, these are the branches. Some branches are sick, some branches are dead. A dead branch, you might need to cut it off the tree to keep the tree healthy. This big part of the tree is called the trunk of the tree. Somebody sometimes maybe cuts the bark off of the trunk, and that can make a tree very sick. All right, so we must protect the tree. We must protect the trunk from getting cut and the bark taken off. We must protect the branches. We shouldn't break branches off of a tree because it can get sick. And sometimes leaves are sick too. Sometimes leaves show disease. Down below the earth, underneath the earth, these are called roots. Roots hold the tree in the ground, but roots also allow the tree, they help the tree get water, and they help the tree find food in the ground. You see? This is the top of the ground. Here's the ground, right? The ground is what we walk on. Underneath the ground, it's soil and dirt. This is the top. This is where we walk. This is the ground. But underneath is soil or dirt. The tree, by the tree, there are flowers. There are flowers growing. There is also mushrooms. I don't know if I like mushrooms, Mr. Steele. You know, mushrooms are very good for your garden. Mushrooms on the top of the ground, you have to be careful. You shouldn't eat the mushrooms unless you know what they are, because you can get very sick if you eat the wrong mushroom. But mushrooms, underneath the ground, mushrooms have these. These are not roots. They're called mycelium. Mycelium. Mycelium goes on all the roots of all the trees and all the roots of all the flowers and all the roots of all the grass and vegetables. And mycelium goes and it connects all the trees. It connects all of the flowers. It connects all of the plants and everything in your garden. And it allows all of them to communicate, to talk to each other. Plants talk to each other, Mr. Steele? Yeah, they do. They communicate with each other like a phone, like an internet. The mycelium is like a big internet of nature all underneath the ground. And all the plants need mycelium to be happy. Mycelium comes from mushrooms. So if you see a mushroom, be nice to it. Don't kill it. Don't take it apart. It's good for your garden. Okay? Muktaba was the tallest student, so his job was to use the long garden shears. These are garden shears. You use them to cut. Muktaba reached high up into the tree to cut away the dead branches. We don't leave the dead branches in the tree, we cut them down. Dala helped to pull the weeds from the ground in the garden. We must pull the weeds so that other plants get more sunlight, water, and food from the soil. This helps the plants be healthy. See, so Muktaba was helping the tree be healthy by cutting away the dead branches. Dala is helping the other plants in the garden be healthy by pulling the weeds, because the weeds will take all the water, they'll take all the sunlight, and they'll take all the food from the other good plants. So Dala pulls out the weeds. Very important in a garden to pull the weeds. Bara brought a rake. This is a rake. See the end of the tool? She raked up all the dead leaves, grass, weeds, and small branches into small piles. So she raked them all up, put them in a pile. This is an important job. Pick up all the dead things and put them in a pile. Rahaf put the piles of dead leaves, branches, and weeds in compost bags. Compost bags, not garbage bags. The leaves, plants, and branches will get old and rot. They will fall apart. They will someday turn into good, healthy soil for the garden. If you put them in garbage bags, they would go in the garbage. They would be wasted. But if you put them in compost bags, the things in the bag, once they all rot, they turn into soil, and then that soil can be put back in your garden or other people's gardens. It's very good for the garden. Do you see how hard the students worked together to keep the land, plants, and trees healthy? All this work to make the plants healthy, right? Leave the mushroom alone. It helps the plants all be healthy. Anwar drove his truck to the garden. There's Anwar. Nader met Anwar there. He called his brothers to help pick up the compost bags. Tamra put down his video games. Good job, Tamra, putting down your video games. He went outside and used his muscles to throw the huge bags into the truck. All right, so there's the truck. He's throwing the bags in the truck. Good job, Tamra. Ryan helped too. He made sure all the bags of compost were put in the truck safely. He didn't want them to fall out on the road. Have you ever seen somebody driving down the road and they're not paying attention and something falls out of the back of their truck on the road and other people have to go like this? Rad's being very, very responsible, making sure that all the bags are in the truck safely. The four boys had lots of fun away from their video games and using their muscles in nature. Good work, boys. The sun was shining. It was partly cloudy. Here's a big cloud. Next, Dureti, Hanyu, and Obsi brought a bag of flower seed to the garden. There's the bag of flower seed. Each of them spread the seed everywhere. They were happy because they knew their seeds would create rainbows of colorful flowers everywhere in the garden. They'd make flowers everywhere. They'd create flowers everywhere in the garden, rainbows of colors. Next, Miriam came to the garden. She brought some special flowers that she liked best to plant in the garden. So not all the flowers come from seed. Some you already have grown and you plant them. Ozma came with her sister. She bent down to look at each flower. She made sure every plant was happy and that there were no weeds that would hurt it. So even after plants are grown, you must continue. You must keep weeding them. You must keep going through and pulling out the weeds. Ozma's taking care of the garden. Selenat brought a hose to the garden. This is a hose, this big long thing. Water comes from it, right? She used the hose to water all the plants and flowers. They were very thirsty. Thanks, Allie. With the help of Selenat, Miriam, and Ozma, the garden began to grow. Look at the garden growing. There's so many plants growing. Look at the birds have started coming to the garden. Mojda wanted to have a bird feeder. Here's a bird feeder. It looks like a bird house, but it's actually a bird feeder because alongside of it, you put the seeds in here and the birds come and they eat up all the seeds. Mojda wanted to have a bird feeder in the garden. She knew birds love to have a happy place to live and to find food. The bird must have told her. Rakia bought some bird seed to put in the bird feeder. A big bag of bird seed. She bought it. Look at the bird. The birds were very happy. Thanks, Rakia. Yafit knew that butterflies are also good for gardens. Butterflies go from flower to flower, and when they touch the flowers, they make more flowers. Yeah. He was happy that the butterflies liked the flowers in the garden. There's Yafit with his butterflies. Thanks to Rakia, Mojda, and Yafit, birds and butterflies came from everywhere to visit the lead garden. All over the place, animals started coming to the garden. Very good. The next morning, the sun rose up. It was bright and beautiful. Rosa got up early that morning to greet the sun. Hello, sun. She loves animals, so she brought a cat and a dog to the garden to enjoy the sun too. Oof, meow. Right? Rosa loves those animals. Rosa discovered the most amazing thing. A peacock had come to enjoy the park too. How did a peacock find their park in the middle of Calgary? Very strange, right? There's no peacocks in Calgary except in the zoo. This is a very strange thing. Where did he come from? This must be very special. She wanted to protect the peacock and all the other animals, so she asked Abdullahi if he would build a fence. Abdullahi loved to build. Here he is with his hammer. There's his hammer right there, as he builds the fence to protect the animals that live in the garden. Here's the fence that Abdullahi is building to protect the animals in the garden. Together, Abdullahi and Rosa made the garden a safe place for everyone. See, Abdullahi's almost done the fence. He just has to finish right here. Now that the work was done, Abeba and Adunya wanted to have a party in the garden with their classmates. They made a beautiful picnic lunch and put it on a table in the garden. There's the beautiful picnic lunch. Here's the table in the garden. Adunya had a good idea. She hung a hammock in between two trees in the garden. It was so relaxing. See, this is a hammock. You tie one end of the hammock to this tree. You tie the other end of the hammock to this tree. You make it tight enough so that the hammock will stay up in the air. And then you sit in it and you lay down. And the hammock kind of rocks in the wind and it's very relaxing. Abeba brought a big bench for people to sit on in the garden. It was so nice to just be in nature. See, Abeba looks so relaxed just being in nature, hey? The two sisters made an excellent party for their classmates. The bees were buzzing, the birds were chirping, there was even a woodpecker. What a wonderful day. It's very nice. It reminds me of my farm. When their teachers, Miss Dudley, Miss Belanger, and Mr. Steele, came to the garden, they were so proud of their students. Good work, everyone. We are glad you are here in Canada. So we are very glad, all three of your teachers. We're all so glad that you're here in Canada with us. We wish that we could see you face to face, but with Corona, we can only see each other on Google Meet. But that won't always be the case. Someday, when it is safe, all of us will see each other again. Okay, that's all, folks. Go to liveworksheets.com to do the exercise about the lead garden. See you next time.